that many states.
Classic Nikita.
Alright, so gun control. This is a particularly relevant issue as of right now, actually, because 2 days ago, another town in Georgia made it mandatory to own a gun.
What?
Yes. Which makes total
Oh,
sense because, as we all know, Republicans love the individual mandate. Right? Like, actually, no. But, all jokes aside, I'm going to give you the lowdown on the progress that's been made so far, as opposed to, like, the arguments for and against. So, yeah, here we go. So, on the national level, a while back, Obama put through 23 executive orders, including really common sense stuff like nominating a director for the ATF, which is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which hasn't happened for like 7 years. So that's really nice. And a bunch of other administrative stuff, things like outreach and research-based. Basically, he's waiting on Congress to deal with like limiting magazine sizes, background checks, and like actual effective gun control laws that Obama and House Democrats propose because he can't do it through executive order. So the big controversy at the moment is Dianne Feinstein's controversial assault weapons ban, which would reinstate a law from 1994 that expired in 2004, which would limit like the number of guns, like assault weapons being automatic rifles, basically, so guns that just fire on demand, rather than having to reload or like even just repress the trigger. Basically, it was removed from the Senate Democrats' bill because it was really controversial. Then a big stink went up about it, so no one really knows whether or not it's going to end up in there. They're saying they will, and they're saying they won't. But if they do, it's going to make it even harder to beat a Republican filibuster, which has already been promised. Rand Paul, great-grand Paul, he's signed on to that, so that's definitely going to happen. So we'll see how that goes. There have been 3 really high-profile states that have dealt with gun control so far. First one is Connecticut, obviously high-profile after Newtown. 2 days ago, a bipartisan legislative agreement was actually reached, which is great. They have the numbers on party lines, but they also reached out across the aisle, and they have the numbers on both sides now. So the main feature is it expands the definition of semi-automatic rifles, adds 160 guns to the list of automatic weapons. There's registration for existing owners, so they're improving background registration. And they're creating the first statewide dangerous weapon offender registry. So people can't buy guns if they've already committed a crime. There was a hole in the Connecticut law basically it's going to stop people who have committed crimes with dangerous weapons from getting guns, hopefully at least. The controversy is that they've kept high-capacity magazines to a certain degree, so they can only be loaded with 10 bullets from outside the home or the shooting range, but like, I mean, how useful is that when someone wants to go and shoot a bunch of people? Basically, the parents of Sandy Hook are really upset with, and their organization is lobbying against that to have that switched. If the shooter at Newtown had to have like a smaller capacity magazine, he would have had to reload 9 more times, which is a lot of time. So yeah, that's obviously why they're really upset about that. So Colorado, that's where Columbine and Aurora happened. And basically, it's an extremely controversial debate that's being resolved. It already passed, and Governor Hickenlooper signed it into law. It banned gun magazines of 15+ rounds, forced background checks, imposed a fee on purchases for background checks to cover costs, which was extremely controversial. They could not get past a ban on concealed weapons on college campuses, which is actually something that's legal in Arkansas as of a month ago. So that's nice and new. And they also couldn't get past a liability measure for gun owners who have their guns used in crime, so it doesn't, like, I guess, provide an incentive to make sure your guns don't get stolen. New York. All right, so this is obviously relevant for us. 11 Republicans voted for a legislative package that was arranged by Governor Cuomo in consultation with, obviously, the Democratic Party, and on the first day of the legislative session, and it was signed into law on the second day, which was really, really fast, but it was highly controversial because of the speed. There's a 3-day expectancy period in New York state law, and Cuomo waived that, so there's currently a lawsuit on the moment to try and overturn what happened in New York really, really fast. Even though 61% of New Yorkers support the legislative package that was implemented, only 43% of upstate do, so there's a lot of controversy going on further north than where we are. So yeah, like in other states, there's been some extreme verbal rhetoric, like Lord Stalin and Hitler, and like threatened refusals to like enforce the law on local levels has happened. That's happened all over the country though. Like there's a bunch of people in Alaska who are refusing, to like enforce proposed laws at the local level, blah blah blah. Which is obviously not how this country works, but okay. And then Yeah, so basically Cuomo argued that he pushed it through that quickly because it was necessary to prevent a spree in gun purchases, which has happened all across the country since there's been these proposed laws. People are buying guns because they're relying on grandfathering, which is the idea that a lot of states are allowing people to keep their current guns if only they register them, which to gun owners, for a lot of gun owners, is like a better option than like not being able to go out and purchase these guns. Also, there's a problem with magazine restrictions in Europe. Basically, they restricted it to 7 bullets for magazines, but gun makers don't make those. Which in and of itself is slightly problematic. But because they don't make those, gun owners are like, well, what are we, you're literally taking away our ability to fire guns, so what's the point in having them? So they're trying to iron that out at the moment. It's possible that they will get flipped back to 10. So these states are the furthest ahead, as in they've actually passed or are about to pass legislation. It's been about 4 months since Newtown, so that's relatively rapid progress considering there's this big myth that gun control can't happen. There's like major efforts in other places right now. Florida and Illinois are 2 big ones where it's really going on right now. But in other states, there's a lot of pushback, as you'd expect from more red states. Arizona right now is trying to pass a law that stops guns that were like bought back at buybacks from being destroyed. Which is nice because apparently we need to keep the ones that we already have, but that's their call, I guess. So we'll see. There's pushback on both sides. But a random fact that I wanted to leave you with, just in terms of the gun lobby, is that the NRA won less than 1% of the races that they invested in the 2010 election. So when people tell you about the big scary gun lobby, I don't know. I just don't find it quite so scary. So yeah.